It started with silence, the kind that blankets a stadium not in peace, but in disbelief. Sophie Cunningham had just been slammed to the hardwood, her body crashing down, as if this were Sunday Night Football and not a WNBA showdown. The whistle? It never came. And just like that, the Indiana Fever's tense battle against the Seattle Storm transformed from a game into a scandal. On the sidelines, Caitlyn Clark, already sidelined with groin injury, exploded with fury. You could see it in her eyes before you heard it in her voice. She wasn't just offending a teammate. She was calling out a league that had, time and again, looked the other way as women like Sophie Cunningham were battered with no accountability. Her scream, "You were right in front of her," wasn't just for the refs. It was for every fan watching who saw the injustice in real time. This wasn't just a missed call. This was the embodiment of everything broken in the WNBA's officiating system. The moment spread like wildfire on social media, in group chats, across sports talk shows. And as it did, it became clear the WNBA had just stepped into its most explosive controversy yet. Players throwing players to floor, referees staring blankly ahead, and the league staying silent? That's not basketball. That's chaos. The failure to protect Sophie Cunningham on that play wasn't just negligence, it was dangerous. And now, the entire league is paying the price as fans and players alike scream for change louder than ever before. Caitlyn Clark's rage wasn't just emotional, it was historic. In a league starved for consistency, her raw, unfiltered passion cut through the noise like a siren. The WNBA didn't just have a missed call on their hands, they had a rebellion. And at the center of it stood Sophie Cunningham, bruised, battered, and now unstoppable. The fury didn't end there. What happened to Sophie was only the spark. What followed was a wildfire criticism that engulfed the entire league. Coaches are getting fined for daring to speak the truth. Players are silenced through fear of punishment. And meanwhile, the officiating grows worse with each passing week. If you thought this was just an Indiana Fever problem, think again. From Los Angeles to Connecticut, players are being thrown around like rag dolls while refs act like they've forgotten the rule book. There's no rhyme, no reason, and absolutely no consistency. The fans are livid, the players are exhausted, and the WNBA's credibility is hanging by a thread. This is bigger than one game, one team, or one foul. This is about a league at war with itself. Every week brings another viral clip, another blown whistle, another player pushed beyond her limit. The question isn't whether change is needed. The question is, will it come before someone gets seriously hurt? Even the most loyal fans are turning. They're tired of watching their favorite athletes get crushed while refs swallow their whistles. They're tired of the league pretending it's all under control. And after this latest incident, they're not just angry, they're organizing. Because when the referees become the story, the game is already lost. Sophie Cunningham didn't ask to be the face of this controversy. But when the storm hit, she stood tall. She became a symbol not just of toughness, but of what it means to endure when the system fails you. And Caitlyn Clark? She made sure the world saw it. Her anger lit the match. Now the league has no choice but to face the fire. As this explosive moment spread, fans expected answers. But instead of accountability, the WNBA handed down a $500 fine to Sophie Cunningham for a TikTok. That's right, not for fighting, not for dangerous play, but for sharing a video criticizing referees as worthless. Let that sink in. A woman gets body slammed during a game. No call, no review, no discipline, but post a meme and you're getting fined. The message from the league couldn't be clearer. Protect the brand, not the players. It's not just insulting, it's dangerous. Cunningham's fall could have resulted in a serious injury. And if it had, would the league have still said nothing? Would a broken wrist or a torn ligament finally have forced him to act? Or would they have quietly swept it under the rug like so many incidents before? Commissioner Kathy Engelbert tried to downplay it, saying, "Winning teams don't complain about refereeing." That quote should haunt every WNBA player. Because when your league's leader dismisses violence as mere whining, it tells you everything about whose voices matter and whose don't. If losing your star players to injuries isn't enough to spark change, what is? Because right now, it feels like the referees are untouchable. Players are bruised, battered, and furious. And every day the league does nothing, the pressure builds. One more wrong call, and this entire system could collapse. Meanwhile, Caitlyn Clark remains on the sideline, recovering from a nagging groin injury that's kept her out for 7 games. The team insists they're being cautious, and with the escalating violence on court, who could blame them? Clark is the WNBA's biggest draw, and the Fever are playing with fire every time they step out without her. The coaching staff knows the stakes. They want Clark back, but not broken. Every day she's out is a day of ticket sales lost, a day of spotlight dimmed, a day of tension mounting. But they can't risk rushing her into a league where bodies are being thrown without consequence. The fans want her. The networks want her. But Caitlyn Clark's camp knows better than to let urgency outweigh health. With the way refs are officiating, it's not just about pain tolerance. It's about survival. And until the league proves it can protect its stars, they're wise to wait. Still, the absence is felt. The crowd energy is lower. The stakes are higher. Every Fever game without Clark becomes a ticking time bomb. And now, someone else has stepped up to hold the line, and her name is Sophie Cunningham. With Clark off the court, all eyes have shifted to the woman they now call the Blonde Bomber. And Sophie has delivered. Against the Seattle Storm, she was electric. 17 points, 5 of 6 from the field, 4 of 5 from deep. And here's the kicker. She hit every single one of the Fever's 3-pointers that night. That's not just clutch. That's carrying a franchise on your back. Sophie didn't just play well. She played possessed, with ice in her veins and fire in her heart. She became the storm within the storm game, and the world took notice. It wasn't just a hot night. It was a statement. When the lights were brightest, when the pressure mounted, Sophie Cunningham stood tall. And when that buzzer sounded, it was her name fans were chanting. Not because she's flashy, but because she's fearless. It wasn't just the stats. It wasn't just the threes or the rebounds or the clutch defense. It was the moment, that indescribable energy that surges through an arena when one player rises above the rest. Sophie Cunningham didn't just seize the spotlight. She owned it. You could feel it before the game even tipped off. The murmurs in the crowd, the buzz online. Everyone was wondering who would step up without Caitlyn Clark on the court. And when Sophie hit her first 3-pointer, nothing but net, you could feel the shift. The crowd leaned forward. The cameras zoomed in. Something special was happening. Each possession, she played like her jersey had weight to it. Not just the fabric, but the expectations. The silence of critics who'd once labeled her a role player. The noise of fans who were still learning how to pronounce her name. The pressure of carrying a team that wasn't supposed to be able to win without Clark. And yet, she welcomed it. When she pulled up for her second 3, contested, deep, fearless, you could see the confidence radiating off her like heat waves. It wasn't cocky. It was earned. Every hour in the gym, every bruise, every mistake, all of it led to this moment. And she was ready. Teammates started looking to her, not just to take shots, but to lead, to anchor the chaos, to breathe life into a team that looked shell-shocked in the early minutes. Cunningham didn't hesitate. She became the voice in huddles, the energy on defense, the calm in crunch time. By halftime, social media had already caught fire. Sophie's game. One fan tweeted, "Blonde Bomber takes over." Another posted, already turning it into a meme. NBA players were chiming in. Analysts on ESPN were scrambling to add her highlights to their nightly segments. This wasn't just a great game. It was a moment in WNBA history. And Sophie felt it. You could see it in her eyes, sharp, locked, and determined. She wasn't playing for validation. She was playing for vengeance, for the body slams that went ignored, for the disrespect. For every time a headline skipped her name to talk about someone flashier, someone louder, someone with more endorsements. The thing about Sophie is that she doesn't need billboards. She doesn't need sneaker deals. What she does need is the ball in her hands when the game is on the line, and a defender foolish enough to think she's not pulling up from deep, because when that ball leaves her fingertips, it's already money. When she sank her third triple, the camera panned to the bench. Clark was on her feet, grinning. She wasn't jealous. She was proud. There was a recognition between the two, a silent nod between assassins. Different styles, same killer instinct. You could argue that this was the most pressure-packed game of Sophie's career. Not because of the opponent, but because of the absence. No Clark meant no safety net. No national spotlight. Just grit, nerves, and the will to rise when it mattered most. And rise she did. By the fourth quarter, Sophie had done more than keep the Fever afloat. She was the reason they were still breathing. When everything else broke down, when the plays got sloppy, when Mitchell missed, when the lead began to crumble, it was Sophie who stepped in and kept the heart beating. Fans started chanting her name. SO-PHIE, SO-PHIE. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't corporate. It was real. The kind of moment you only get when a player reaches into your chest and makes you feel something. The kind of performance that turns doubters into believers. In the locker room afterward, the energy was different. Players clapped her on the back. Coaches gave her the nod reserved for leaders. The post-game speech wasn't just about the win. It was about how Sophie set the tone. It was a coronation, not a recap. Reporters swarmed her. Microphones shoved in her face. How did it feel? What's changed? Do you think this proves something? But Sophie didn't flinch. She smiled, wiped a bead of sweat off her forehead, and simply said, "We needed it, so I did it." The next morning, her jersey hit the top of the Fever's online store. Sold out in less than an hour. Social media engagement up 300%. Blonde Bomber was trending in over 15 states. The WNBA might have its poster child in Clark, but it just found its fire starter in Sophie. And now, people are asking a very different question. Not, can the Fever survive without Clark? But rather, is Sophie the co-star we never knew we needed? Because while Clark revolutionizes the game, Sophie personifies it. The fight, the fire, the refusal to be invisible. There's a grit in her play that echoes through the bleachers. Every dive for a loose ball, every shoulder check on defense, every smirk after hitting a three in someone's face. She doesn't just want to win, she wants to dominate. And more importantly, she wants respect. She's no longer a spark plug, she's an engine. The kind that roars to life when everything else fails. The kind that drags a team through the mud and across the finish line when no one else can. Sophie Cunningham is no longer waiting for her moment. She's taking it every night, every possession. And the rest of the WNBA better take notice. Because if this is the new normal for Sophie, the heart, the hustle, the heroics, then the Indiana Fever aren't just holding steady without Clark. They're evolving. And it's only a matter of time before this duo rewrites the league. Her performance wasn't a fluke. It was the culmination of weeks of rising momentum. Ever since her viral clash defending Clark, she's been on a tear. Her jersey sales exploded. Her social media, up over 800,000 followers. And on the court, she's become the most dependable player on the roster. This isn't just about points. This is about presence. Sophie's playing like someone who knows the world is watching, and she's refusing to blink. In a league desperate for leadership, she's answering the call. With every clutch shot, she's silencing the doubters and rewriting her legacy. Yet for all her brilliance, the Fever still found a way to nearly fumble the win. After leading by 13 in the third quarter, they completely fell apart. It was deja vu for fans who've seen this collapse before. A 10-2 Storm run closed the gap, and suddenly, victory was slipping through their fingers again. It wasn't just bad basketball, it was haunting. The kind of unraveling that makes you question if this team is cursed. The kind of meltdown that forces coaches to question their rotations and fans to question their sanity. With every possession, it felt like the Fever were sprinting toward disaster. And it nearly happened. With just over 3 minutes left, the Storm pulled within 1 point, 73-72. You could feel the air leave the arena. It was the kind of tension that shortens lifespans, and the Fever, as they've done too often, looked completely rattled. In that moment, all the praise for Sophie nearly became a footnote to another collapse. But somehow, they held on. Barely. A win is a win, but the scars of that near failure will linger. Because when Clark is out, this team walks a tightrope without a net. One name, though, stood out for all the wrong reasons: Kelsey Mitchell. To put it bluntly, she had a disaster class. 0 for 8 from 3. 3 for 16 overall. Her performance didn't just hurt the team, it nearly doomed them. Mitchell's slump isn't new, but this game was something else. It felt cursed. Every shot clanked. Every drive ended in frustration. And yet, the coaching staff kept her in. The fans watched in horror. And somewhere on the bench, Clark had to be wondering what she was seeing. There comes a point where loyalty turns into liability. Mitchell has talent, but right now her confidence is shattered. Her timing is off. Her decision-making is panicked. And it's hurting the team at the worst possible moments. If the Fever want to survive without Clark, they need everyone firing. They can't afford nights like this. They can't afford passengers. Because as Sophie Cunningham keeps proving, greatness isn't about volume, it's about value. And Mitchell right now is delivering neither. The league is in chaos. The refs are out of control. The stars are hurt. The fans are furious. But amidst the wreckage, a new leader has emerged. And her name is Sophie Cunningham. The blonde bomber didn't just step up, she took over. And the WNBA will never be the same.